Today, we are going to be talking about buying a mobile home park before the year ends. And as a private equity firm that focuses on mobile home parks, it is always a good time, in our opinion, in our biased opinion, that to buy a mobile home park at any point of the year. But especially in the last quarter of every year, investors tend to rush into the market to buy a mobile home park before the year ends because for the tax advantages that we're going to be focusing on in today's webinar. And generally, if you have not invested with us or if you are new to mobile home park investing, I will also be covering why mobile home park investing is a good idea. So what you're seeing right now on the screen is a map of our portfolio. The number represents the number of park that we at Johns Creek Capital own in that particular state. As you can see that we have a heavier presence in the Midwest and the Southeast, and it kind of spreads out from there. And we have several parks that, one you can see in Maine, another one all the way in Montana, and one in Arizona. And we buy parks based on the qualities and the fundamentals of that deal. We don't just buy parks just because something's close to us. Here's what we think is that if a deal is a bad deal, just because something is close to you doesn't mean much. A bad deal in your backyard is still a bad deal. And a good deal thousands of miles away is still a good deal. So that's why that you can see we operate actually in over 10 different states. So that's our portfolio. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. Buy a mobile home park before the year ends. So like I said, investors rush to buy mobile home parks during the last quarters. And we have, as Johns Creek Capital, we have closed ever since we started a deal right before the year ends for particular tax advantages for every single year since we started, 2019, 2020, 2021, and this year, definitely 2022. It is definitely a hot time for people to wanting to get in, and with people, if you have taxes on your mind, if you are tax savvy and you want to do some tax planning for 2020, 2023, and a lot of you guys are. So right now it's a time to pay attention and get into the market and do some tax planning. So taxes for us should always be on top of our mind. One of the major things that we focus on, the three things that we deliver at Johns Creek Capital, and I think for a lot of investors, is number one, cash flow, and that's distributed through the monthly distributions that we give. Number two is appreciation of the asset they're part of. Number three is tax advantages, right? So all the deals that we do, all the decisions that we make are driven by the maximization of those three parameters. If a decision does not promote A, cash flow, B, appreciation, three, tax advantages, then the decision would not go through or the deal does not go through. So those three things are extremely important. And that is what we deliver to our investors. So number three, taxes. Okay, it should always be something that's on every single investor's mind, and not just wait until the end of the year. But the end of the year, usually investors get to understand how they spent their year, how many assets that they got, how much money they made. So they're able to better assess their tax planning needs at the end of the year. So it is all about how much money you save from taxes and how much money you get to keep. You should never, as an investor, and all of you guys probably know this by now, it's very obvious that it's how much you keep. It don't count your pre-tax return or pre-tax income. It does not mean as much as after tax. So, and mobile home park in particular is extremely tax efficient. And I'm going to go into why mobile home parks are tax efficient. But right now, let's talk about, we talk about this in every webinar, is the general idea of why mobile home parks are in such high demand. Affordable housing, restricted, limited supply. If you been on the webinar before, and if you invested with us before, you definitely know all of these. But I'm just going to go through this really quickly for those of you who's never, if you're a first-time attendee to one of our webinars. So the demand for affordable housing is a nationwide problem. And if there's a problem, if someone can, a product can provide the solution for this problem, then this product is bound to increase in price and value. And that's what the mobile home parks are for. So because the demand is ever rising, and with the economic situations that we are in since the past couple of years of COVID and the current situations, we have been printing money like crazy. So inflation is a big thing. So the need for affordable housing has always been great. And in the past couple of years, it's just really increasing and shooting up. And in an economic recession, mobile home parks actually receive more calls from residents wanting to move in because they're seeking less expensive options. Sorry. And restricted limit of supply, a lot of people are wondering what that means. So what that really means is actually local government officials do not like mobile home parks that much. So they are trying everything they can to restrict the zoning permits to build new mobile home parks. And in the very few legislatures that you're actually allowed to build new mobile home parks, you actually, the speed of it is never going to catch up with the demand. So in basic economics imply that when the demand is ever increasing quickly and supply cannot catch up, that drives the value of a particular product really high. So, and that in this case is mobile home parks. And the third thing is attractive cap rates. So what a cap rate is really, if you're paying cash for a particular park, a real estate, the cap rate is really the return you get if you are to pay cash for something. So the cap rate is important because that shows what kind of market you're entering into at the beginning. So let's say you're buying a park at a 5% cap rate. That means if you pay cash for a park, you're only going to get 5% return. And if your interest rate is 4%, then that leaves you very little room for profit. And you probably don't have that much meat on the bone. So what we're looking for is always 2 to 3% at least points between the cap rate and interest rate. So that will give you projected internal rate of return of around 20% based on historical data and just the math behind it. So mobile home parks, unlike multifamily, commercial building, and during COVID, a lot of hospitality industry, the traveling industry, related hospitality, commercial space, they have plummeted in revenue. And that means that they're not able to keep up with the cap rate that they got themselves into. A lot of people lost their shirt in COVID, and people are still recovering from it. So mobile home parks, on the other hand, you're looking at cap rates going into the deal, 7 to 8% cap rate. So that's extremely attractive for investors because you almost don't see that kind of cap rate in multifamily or commercial. You're looking at maybe 3 to 4%. In some markets, maybe 5%. So going in at a good cap rate is very important to set you up for success for this deal. And the next point, not sure why I can't. Oh, here we go. And the stability of the tenant, low turnover. I'm not saying that there is no turnover, but the turnover rate is much lower because the unique nature of mobile home parks. So think of a mobile home park as a parking lot, and mobile homes are the cars parking at that parking lot. So we actually own the land, the dirt behind below the mobile homes, not the homes themselves. There are parks that come with homes, but those are the ones that we kind of try to avoid, and because it really is a liability and always a headache. So, but for a mobile home park, you get a lot rent from tenants, pretty much a parking lot fee. But don't let the name
lie to you because mobile homes are nothing but mobile. I'm not saying that they're not mobile in the case where you want to drag it away. You can't. You can do that. But mobile homes are extremely difficult to move. 95% of mobile homes never make it out of the park that they were moving to. There are only several scenarios that a mobile home can ever be moved. First of all, the home needs to be new enough to be moved. A lot of older homes cannot be moved. You can't even get it onto the trailer. If you drive the trailer truck with the home on it, is going to shatter into pieces if you go above 5 miles per hour. So those old homes cannot be moved, right? So that's the stability right there. But for newer homes, which we do prefer in our parks, you can move them, but the moving fees ranges from $8,000 to $10,000. So usually a tenant will not be able to move it out. One option that it can be moved out of your park is the tenant has a bank financing on the home and the bank is foreclosing on it and the bank can pay for the moving fees and move it out of the park. But we've never seen it happen in any of our 28 parks that we've owned, and it's extremely rare. What's most likely to happen is for tenant just move away. Just they walk away, they pack their bags, and they abandon the home. In that case, we actually go through the procedure called the abandonment process, and we reclaim the home and get the title and try to sell it out again. So the stability is attractive. Low cost per unit, obviously, the process to manufacture a mobile home is drastically lower. I mean, less complicated and less expensive than, let's say, a stick-built single-family home or multifamily apartment building. So low cost per unit is pretty self-explanatory. Low expense ratio, that means if you are running a park with mostly tenants pay for their own utilities, you're looking at about 30 to 40% of expense ratio. And if you pay for the utilities and tenants they don't pay utilities, you're looking at 40 to 45%, sometimes 50%, but that's depending on the park size. So that's attractive. And forecast, like I said, in the future, in the next 3 to 5 years, mobile home parks are projected to continue to rise. And in our opinion, from our perspective, from where we're seeing, the market is getting increasingly hot, driving up the prices of the mobile homes, driving up the value because of the demand and supply factors that I explained earlier. And this affordable housing crisis, I don't see it. We don't see it being solved anytime soon. Not a real solution. And to completely frank, in this market, mobile home parks is really the best for value affordable housing option. Nothing is more affordable than a mobile home. If you think about apartment buildings in town, you're usually looking at 2 to 3, if not more. Sometimes if you look at a different, a really hot market, let's say Phoenix, Arizona, you're looking at apartment rents in the 5,000-6,000, and mobile home park lot rent is a few hundreds. Not nationwide, the average mobile home park lot rent is only $280, which is kind of, from an inflation perspective, we're still catching up to the 1960s rent level. So there's a lot of meat on the bone to start with for investors. So that is, in general, why mobile home park is always a good idea to invest year round. That's why every year Johns Creek Capital acquires anywhere from 6 to 10, if not more, depending on the market in a particular year, but definitely by the year's end. And now I'm going to go into why, from a tax perspective, investors should be looking at mobile home parks. So mobile home park investing actually means you have an accelerated depreciation schedule. So unlike multifamily, which is 27.5 years for pretty much apartment buildings and 39 years for commercial buildings, mobile home parks infrastructure depreciation is over a 15-year schedule. So what that means is that in the first year, if you really want to do some tax planning, if you have incurred lots of tax liability through your past investment in this year, you have to be careful though. Caveat here is that because this is going to be a passive investment, so as your CPA is going to only offset the income that you earned through passive investment. Let's say you have other passive investments and you have a ton of tax liability you accrued during the year 2022. And by April 2023, when it's time to pay and file your taxes, this 15-year schedule that even if you close on December 31st, 2022, last day of the year, you're able to take full advantage of the short schedule, depreciation schedule from mobile home parks. So a lot of people will ask that, for apartment buildings, it's easier to understand that apartment buildings have a actual building, right? You got a building standing so you can depreciate the building. But what could you depreciate in a mobile home park? So you cannot really depreciate the land, right? Because it's not a building, it's not standing, it's not a clubhouse. If you have a clubhouse, then you can depreciate that. But for most mobile home parks, you're looking at depreciating utility lines, roads, and if you have septic tanks, if the park is on a septic tank, those definitely depreciable. And if you have a well house, you have electrical pedestals, and in general, infrastructure. You're looking at park infrastructure. And as a park owner, you own those infrastructures. So you're able to depreciate those. And depending on the kind of infrastructure your park has, you can be looking at anywhere from 20% to 40% of the entire purchase price of the park, year one, for your depreciation. So that is the most attractive part about tax planning for mobile home parks. And that's how it defers your taxes. That's how it helps you out when the next tax year comes. Obviously, you need to be talking to your own tax professional as far as your own tax situation. This is in general for people who are involved in other past investments, and talk to your CPA on how you can take advantage of mobile home parks. And the second point is that not only do mobile home parks generate outsized cash flow returns, but most of the returns, the distributions that we give you every month is tax-free, especially in the beginning years. And then in the following years, they're very minimal. When the infrastructure is fully depreciated, the basis can simply be transferred for another asset through a 1031 exchange. But that's only if we do sell or do a sales event. So if the property is sold, keep in mind that the capital gains and depreciation recapture taxes would be owed, but that's only if the property is sold. But this would apply to any kind of real estate, right? But it would be at a lower rate than many investors' marginal tax bracket. So the ability to depreciate productive and appreciating asset is a really good deal. And the accelerated only 15 years of schedule depreciation can give investors a really huge write-off for especially the first year. And it really is a gift from the government. So I would highly recommend everybody claim this gift and use it very intelligently through investing in the right asset, in this case, mobile home parks. So the next point is the value allocation to determine depreciable basis. So the large percentage value allocation to infrastructure versus land is a little bit counterintuitive, as a mobile home park investor owns the land, like I said earlier, is a parking lot business, right? And leases it to mobile home park or mobile home owners. So there's not much wear and tear associated with dirt, there's just land. So land is not depreciated, but for parks not located in crazy high land value market like California, the majority of the mobile home parks value can be allocated to this infrastructure. Like I said, roads, utilities, including the septic tanks, water line, sewer line, well house. If you have a clubhouse, you have electrical pedestals, electrical poles, anything that's infrastructure, which is a huge part of the park, you can depreciate. So a lot of people, that's actually kind of hidden because it's not standing up like an apartment building. You can look at this building, okay, this is something you depreciate. But in mobile home parks, a lot of things are hidden, and we actually do a infrastructure study. Every time we buy a park, we have a schedule to do an infrastructure study within 30 to 60 days of our acquisition to get this ready for our investors K1 next year to fully take advantage of the mobile home park accelerated schedule. So, and after tax cash flow returns. So the tax impact of the accelerated depreciation schedule is most real estate investors really just focus on the before tax investment returns, which is really not the way that you should be evaluating your investments. However, the ultimate goal is really to maximize net proceeds. So you have to keep this in mind. A lot of times it can be a little bit confusing because if you're thinking about, oh, I'm getting this much money, but you have to think about how much money you get to keep. And like I said, the most cash flow from mobile home parks, especially in the beginning years, are tax-free. So you really don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. They can be hard to deal with, as we all know. So you really need to be strategic in planning your taxes. And some case studies. So I'm not going to go into details here, but we have been closing deals in December for every single year since we've started. So we closed the deal literally on the last day of the year in 2019, December 31st. That one was a small deal in Ohio, and we were able to write off almost half of the entire purchase price through infrastructure studying, through the depreciation schedule. So the next tax year in 2020, all of our investors in that deal were able to have a huge write-off on their K1 for that particular deal. And then second deal, we closed a lot more deals than this, but that's just the last deal of the year. So it's the second last year of the year. In 2020, we closed a deal in South Carolina and also provide a huge tax write-off in 2021. So this is kind of a strategy that we do every year. It's kind of a routine for us now. And the demand is always very high for investors. So if we put out a deal towards the last quarter of the year, usually things go extremely quickly because of the tax advantages that I just mentioned above. So we closed another deal in December 15th, on December 15th, 2021. That was the park in Montana. Also extremely attractive write-offs. So like I said, all of three deals on average, you're looking at anywhere from 20% to 40%, if not more, entire price written off depending on the infrastructure. So those are really the most attractive points as far as from a tax write-off perspective. So things to remember is for mobile home parks, number one is on an accelerated schedule, meaning the first year, if you have a huge tax need for 2023, and after consulting your CPA and they confirm that those income that you got in 2022 this year, you're facing a big tax consequence, do talk to your CPA and present them with this option of mobile home park investing and see what they tell you. And I'm sure there will be certain, because your CPA knows your tax situations the best. So in general, MHPs are able to provide huge tax write-offs. And really that's it. So it is kind of not a long webinar, but I do want to emphasize the importance of tax planning, especially the last quarter of the year, because you know what you did this year and how much money you made from passive investments. And speaking of which, for those of you who stayed with me for the whole time, which is not long, it's not a big webinar, I have something special for you tomorrow night. If you're interested, please reach out to me after this presentation. And tomorrow is going to be a longer presentation. And this is going to be a new deal that we just got under contract today. Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was a solid deal. And let me tell you this, it took us several references from brokers to win this deal from the seller. And this is most likely going to be the last deal of the year in 2022. And this deal is shooting to close in late November, if not, depending on if we get extension or not, early December. So this is going to be the last deal of the year. So this deal that I'm going to present tomorrow is going to be one of those that you see that goes on the list, was going to be last deal of the year. So if you have a tax liability, you're worried about paying too much taxes for 2023, please join me for this webinar tomorrow. In this presentation, I'm going to present this new deal in detail and everything that you will know. So if you and I have not talked before this webinar, please reach out to me at cdunford@johnscreekcapital.com or go to a website. If you forgot this email address, please go to our website and fill out the form. I'll reach out to you so I can send you the registration link for this deal presentation. So because this deal presentation is for investors that I've talked to before, you kind of get the first dibs, and it's very hot deal and people are very interested. So I would highly recommend you reach out to me after today's presentation, either through email, write this down right here, or go to our website if you lost this email address. And I will send you a link for tomorrow's deal presentation. And you will get to know everything about this deal, how much, minimum investment and what this deal is all about. I cannot talk too much about it right now because I have not talked to each one of you to comply with SEC regulations. So after we have talked, tomorrow is going to be very open, detailed presentation on what this deal is. And you will see pro formas, projections, what it's doing right now, deal structure, kind of the story behind the deal, how we got the deal. Like I said, we fought long and hard for this deal. And I would say, is one of those deals that's on the market that's actually not that thin. And we won this deal because we have been a player in the market and we provided seller and broker references to the current seller to win this deal from him. So please join me tomorrow. And then this is probably wraps up today's presentation. And tomorrow is going to be a longer one. You'll hear from me, and please reach out to me after this presentation, and we'll set up a call or we'll just get to know each other, and then I'll send you a link to tomorrow's presentation. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this and learn a lot more about us and about this deal. I think you guys will be really excited. I'm excited for this tomorrow's presentation, and I think a lot of investors are as well. So you definitely get first dip. So, and I'm going to leave some time for questions if you have any. And if you're not comfortable asking questions on the webinar, please reach out to me afterwards, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So you're welcome to unmute yourself or send me a little note for questions. But if not, I'm going to wrap this up. So I'll give it another couple minutes for questions, if there are any.
Charlotte,
Yes, go ahead.
How do you guys source deals? Do you guys mostly do brokers, or do you look for off-deal market?
Right. So we have several channels. One is that we actively look for deals on the market, right? And number two, the brokers actually send us deals because they know that we're we're qualified and accredited buyers in the market. So they actually we're on their list and they send us deals all the time. And we actually receive private pocket listings. I would say 2 to 3 times per week. And every day, we're always constantly on the hunt for the good deal. And so those are several channels to do it. And as far as off-market deals, we don't really do an active campaign on off-market deals just because a lot of time the sellers aren't that interested in selling, and the prices or terms that they propose, because they're not motivated that much, they're not really attractive. So those are the 3 main channels. So we proactively look for deals every single day, and we get deals from brokers and sellers from past relationships, and we'll also get off-market private listings just from the selected brokers that we've worked with. So those are the 3 main channels. I would say 90% of the deals that's presented to us that we find, we pass. Because just like on any marketplace, and especially today when the market is so hot, anybody is trying to put on a deal on the market, even if the park is quite trash and is not a good asset, and people are trying to put it in the market and see what it sells for, just because the market is hot. And I would say, I think 2 years ago, 80% of the deals that we pass, nowadays 90% of deals we pass, just because we have been underwriting at this point hundreds, if not 1,000 deals for the past 3 years we did business. So we know what a good deal looks like. So within a few seconds, looking at the fundamentals of this deal, okay, this deal is a pass. Only 10% of them make it through the first threshold. We even pursue it. And the deal that I'm going to present tomorrow definitely made it past all the thresholds, and it's a golden deal. So the ones that we actually present in front of investors that pass through so many challenges in our internal algorithm are really good deals. So hopefully that answers the question.
What's the normal internal rate of return for investing, and what is the exit strategy? Do you refi after 3 years and sell after 5 years?
Great question. So to give an example, all of our deals have a range of IRR, internal rate of return, anywhere between on the lower side, we usually are very conservative and try to set expectations lower than what can actually deliver. So anywhere from 12% to 20%. I know that's a big range, but let me give you an example of a deal that we recently sold. Exit strategy, right? We recently sold this deal in June of 2022. It's a small park in Iowa. We bought this park 22 months ago. In May of 2020, we bought this park for $325,000 in May of 2020. And after holding it for 22 months, which is less than 2 years, we sold it in June of 2022, this year, for $495,000. And meanwhile, we've been making distributions every month, and investors have been getting close to 6 to 8%, depending on the year, of cash on cash. And that's all profit. That's not return of the return of the principal until we sell it. So that's all pure profit. And when we sold it, we delivered 19% internal rate of return and 20% annualized return. So that's completed the full cycle, and that's already been delivered. And the other deals, like I said, we started in late 2019. So most of our deals have anywhere from 2 years to 5, if not 8, mostly 2 to 5 years the whole time. So they're still maturing, but that's the one examples I can give you, the one that actually we sold and delivered. And as far as refinancing, we were considering refinancing for a couple of our deals, because a lot of our deals are all cash or seller financing. And all of our seller financing terms are anywhere from 3% interest rate, 30-year amortization, which is really attractive to start with. So I doubt we can refinance into something more attractive term-wise. So that's definitely a scenario that we always underwrite. But so far we have not refinanced, but that's something that, like I said, a couple of parks, we are considering it. So we can return some of the principal, so investors can enjoy the profit.
Okay, thank you.
For sure. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Hopefully see you tomorrow. Please reach out to me. And anyone else about any question, not just for this presentation, anything about us, about our structure, minimum investment, taxes.
Due to work-related stuff, I had to disconnect for 15 minutes. Is there any way you can send this recording to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll send this recording to all of you guys after our team has processed the kind of the audio quality. So yeah, this will be shared.
Charlotte, I joined a bit late. My name is James. What is the minimum investment?
So depending on the deal, smaller deal, first-time investor, we can accept, depending on the deal, right? Smaller deal, 25,000, but a lot of people do 50,000. So as far as from our perspective, we try to encourage everyone, if you're a first-time investor, at least do 25,000. But if it is a bigger deal and the deal is really hot, then it may be different. We try to get everybody into a deal. So if you really, have something else in mind, let's say I don't want to do 25, I want to do 20, or because of certain circumstances, we can certainly work with that. But normally 25 to 50K.
25 to 50K. Okay. And usually you have distributions via K1 or something end of the year?
Yes. By a couple months before the tax due date. So for 2022, the K1s will be issued in early 2023.
Early 2023. And you are saying like during the initial months of owning a mobile park or a part owner of a mobile park, a lot of it is depreciation. Is that what I heard?
Yes, especially the first year. Exactly.
Okay.
Because of the accelerated depreciation. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get your K1s early 2023.
Okay.
And the K1 will have the write-off amount on it, and you can give it to your CPA for them to further process it based on your tax situations.
Okay. Okay. I'll be reaching out to you via email with some other questions if I have any.
Absolutely, please do. Yeah,
Okay.
and you guys, if you have any questions, please, if you're not comfortable speaking here, please reach out to me through email. Again, if you lost the email, please go to our website and you'll find me again. So, and Any more questions? One more ask
How many subscribers do you have so far
for
in
Uh,
all of, I mean, all the
well,
investors?
for all of our deals, we have over 28 deals that we have already closed, and 29 counting the one tomorrow. And we've gotten subscribers. I think, sorry, trying to think. So we have the total investor count, you're looking at 40 to 50. But investors who already committed and put their money in, and they some put in a lot more than the others. You're looking at 30, 35 that's actually put in actual funds. And like I said, a lot of them put in a lot more than the others. And one of them actually put in almost $3 million, for one person. So yeah, so that's the total count. And the total subscription amount, because most of our deals are cash, almost all cash or seller financing. They're on the small to medium sized, because that's the niche that we want to kind of monopolize. We have over 5 million investor subscribers, over 30 to 35 investors who actually put in money, but the total people who actually have, a soft commitment that are just looking for the next deal. We'll have a pretty active investor kind of incoming pipeline. You're looking at 40 to 50 people.
I got you.
Constant.
Charlotte, a question along the same lines. For every repeat deal, what is the percentage of repeat subscribers, the same subscribers investing in? What percentage would you say? Let's say the current 28 deal was 100 subscribers, and something like 60% of them were repeat subscribers from a previous deal.
Yeah, good question. I think the percentage overall, you're looking at 50, 60%. So 50 to 60% of, on average, our deals, at least 50% of people are repeat investors. And almost all of our investors, with an exception or one or two, they are repeat investors. They've been investing with us since the beginning, and they're still investing with us. So to answer your question, on average, you're looking at 50% to 60%, depending on which deal is. For example, the one that we're closing, actually we're closing a deal on this Friday, not the one that I'm about to present tomorrow, but another deal that we've been in the works for a month. So that one, it's got some new investors in there, but that one, the repeat investor is at least 45%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I understand, your business model is, regardless of the size of the deal, you have $25,000 investment units and $50,000 investment units. Is that right?
That's the minimum. Yeah. So, and some people do 100,000. So it's the amount, not the unit. So, some people want to take it all. Some people, it depends. It's a first come, first serve. And some people, I would say, I want to take 90% of the deal, right? If an investor comes in and look at the deal, and he's the first one to respond to me and saying that, I love this deal, I want to take at least 90% of this deal, and I have this much money to deploy, he may want to do 300,000, and that's happened before. And then some people just, okay, I'm a first time investor, I just want to do 50K. Or some people say, oh, I just want to do 25K. And 25K is usually the minimum amount. If the deal is bigger, we usually ask for 50, but it depends on the investor, right? It depends on the deal.
What's the largest deal that you have done so far, or do you have a set criteria that we may keep it under $1 million, or what's the criteria for your deals, and what is the largest one that you've done?
So the largest one we've done so far, we actually had almost $1 million raise for that one. It was close to 800,000 raise.
Okay.
And that's the biggest one. And we have other ones that's close to that one, 600,000, and that one was 800,000. And as far as criteria, we have 15 major acquisition parameters. So to name a few most important ones, there is this thing called in mobile home parks, one of the most important things is that we want majority tenant-owned homes, meaning the tenants actually own the mobile homes themselves, instead of us owning it. So that's actually the major thing, right? Because if you really don't want the headache and the liability, it's always liability to own the mobile homes. You have to take care of the broken furnace. A lot of homes are old. You don't want that. You want to be in the land owning business, the parking lot business. So that's number one parameter. I'm going to list another two, but like I said, there are 15. So the second most important one is utility structure, right? We prefer parks with public utilities, with utilities directly billed to tenants themselves. Right. So that way tenants pay for the utilities. Is a huge expense saving for us as landlords. And number three, I would say you have to look at the condition of the park in general, right? A lot of parks are kind of run down. And, even though we don't own the homes, we want to make sure the homes are actually on the cleaner side. There aren't a lot of trees around, because trees can be a health hazard. They can fall on the roof of the mobile home. We've done that before. We've experienced that before. We learned that lesson. And those are just terrible health and safety issues. So those are the three. But like I said, there are 15 other, housing market, local market. Is it near a metro? How many people are in the town? What's the median home price in the town? What's the population in the metro, and how far is it from a metro? How many Walmarts are around? So those are, those parameters. But the three most important things we look at is majority tenant-owned homes, utility structure, and the overall condition of the park. You don't want to run down park at a dump, right? So yeah, so those are, our criteria. And then if you look at our website, it specifies most of those in detail. And if you want to reach out to me for the deal presentation tomorrow, I would love to. It definitely talks about all of them.
Sure. Thank you so much. One last question. I might have missed this. As I said, I joined late. What's the average hold time on any of these deals? 3 years, 2 to 3 years, or?
Anywhere from 2 to 5 years, but mostly shorter, depending on the deal, right? So if the deal is really, cash flowing really well and the market does not make sense to sell yet, we may hold on to it longer. It always has to be a little bit flexible based on the market, but our whole time of what we tell investors, and we always stick with that, is 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
On average, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to take up your time if you're close to the end time, but if you
no
have
worries, go ahead.
When you're acquiring a mobile home property, right? Will you be creating an LLC, a new LLC per property, and then you're going to add your limited partners into that LLC? Is that how it works?
Yes, you're right on. So for every single deal that we have, we form a new LLC that buys that deal, and all the limited partners, aka investors, will be shareholders of that LLC. So the LLC buys the park, investors own the LLC, therefore investors own the park. So that way it provides a layer of protection of liability for investors, and it keeps things separate. Every deal is a different LLC. Correct.
I got you. And you as the general partner for this new property, you will make sure that the insurance is taken care of, the protections are in place as we own this property for these 2 years or 5 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's our fiduciary duty. That's our job, right? So, usually for mobile home parks, we look at two types of property insurance and insurance. So number one is liability insurance. And if someone trips and falls and causes injury or die, or, and due to whatever reason, that's covered through the liability insurance, business liability insurance. Number two, the second layer is property insurance. That's if, we have, let's say, a hurricane, wind, vandalism, or whatever reason, whatever happens, or fire that happens to a park, which happened before. A fire happened at a park that we actually sold in Iowa. So the insurance will cover that. So two types of property and liability. So we're fully covered.
That's good to hear.
That's our job. Yeah.
Okay. And How big is your team, Charlotte?
So like I said, the biggest one is the raise was 800,000. This on the smaller side, you can look at a raise goal of 100,000. The one that most of the deals are actually somewhere in between, right? So 100 to 800. So this year, we actually just closed the deal, not just, but a couple months back. That deal raise goal with 325,000. So that's somewhere in the middle. So I would say the biggest one we've done almost 800,000. Smallest one we've done less than 100,000. Most of the deals, 90% are in between. I know that's a big range, but yeah. So in the world of private equity, I think that's on the smaller side.
I got you. So I recently got into this. When I say recently, within the last few months, I got into this type of investing, right? Where with technology becoming more affordable, you're seeing more of crowdsourcing, crowd investing, right? And then one of the things that came up was the tax liability. Like for example, right? I live in a state that doesn't have a state income tax. So I just file my Schedule K1 with the federal, and I'm done. But like, let's say, for example, if I were to become a limited partner in your next deal, right? And if this mobile home is supposed to be, let's say, for example, in Arizona, which has a state tax, do I have to file state taxes as a limited partner in that state, or I felt like that's an area which I wasn't familiar, so I know it has to be a question for CPA, but I just wanted to ask you.
Right. I think that would be a question for a CPA or tax professional. What we do is that we always issue the K1, and your CPA, your tax professional, would tell you if it is required in that particular state. And also, we at Johns Creek Capital, we file tax return with that particular state that we do business in, and then we do that internally for that LLC. And as far as your personal taxes, I would think that's a question for your CPA. However, I would reach out to me, and we can continue the discussion after I talk to our CPA who specializes in mobile home parks, because I think that gets into a realm of a kind of a more a professional tax question. So yeah, I will leave it there.
Yeah, because that was my assumption was, since I didn't live in the state, as long as the LLC filed the state franchise taxes, I would be okay. But then on the web, as I started researching, it might not be that obvious. Hence the question. But I appreciate if your CPA can give his 2 cents. I'll also ask my CPA.
For sure. And do reach out to me so I know what your email address is, and I probably can find out through the name and everything. But do reach out to me, and we can continue the conversation. And we'll definitely check with my CPA as well, our CPA, sure. Our tax professional. So yep, for sure.
I am just noting down your email address from the screen here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions?
Charlotte, previously, maybe it's my accent that might have come across as team must have come across as deal, but I was just curious, how big is your team, not deal?
Oh, I'm so sorry. My apologies.
No, it might be my accent, as I said. Go ahead.
Yeah. So our team, is my partner, who and I co-own Johns Creek Capital, and our team consists of our you don't see everybody on the website, but we have our value add coordinator, our accounting finance administrator, and our tax team, and our attorney, and our compliance officer. So those are our major team members. We have many other local team members who don't work for us directly, but they do work with us. Like I said, we operate in over 10 different states at this point. And because a lot of the parks need localized effort, and during due diligence, or rather after we make the acquisition, we assemble kind of a local team for every single park. So looking at 28 different parks, you have 28 different local teams consisting of government officials, contractors, including electricians, plumbers, and a point of contact at the park, usually a good tenant at the park, kind of be our kind of eyes and ears of the park. We don't hire property management at the park because we believe is a kind of a tough asset to manage, and no one puts as much effort into your asset as yourself. So we manage everything in-house, but we do have those teams reporting to my partner who's in charge of operations directly. And the ones that directly work for Johns Creek Capital, like I said, our compliance officer who takes care of a lot of compliance needs at a state level. For example, if you want to, we registered a company in Georgia, and if you do business in Arizona, you need to file something called a foreign registration. It's not expensive. It's like $100 and $50, depending on the state, to do business in Arizona. So, and those compliance needs are being taken care of by a compliance officer, not just the foreign registration, but tax, revenue, you have to file with them, and county permits, city permits. So we have a junior level compliance officer taking care of that. And our financial administrator taking care of accounting and financial and reporting. And our value add coordinator works directly with our operational side of things with Rick, my business partner, who has extensive business construction background on the individual value add tasks. For example, if we are going to move a home into a park to fill a lot, and that's a huge value add. And he is going to be out there getting quotes, working with contractors, kind of boots on the ground, coordinating with that. So we don't have an 100 people team, but all of our team members are very much dedicated, and we work together to make the team successful.
That answers the question. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah, sorry for the misunderstanding.
Oh, no worries. The next deal that you're working on, right? Is it, how many homes that can it accommodate?
The one that the deal that I just got under contract for?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I'm going to have to save tomorrow. Like I said, the SEC regulations tells us that if, I cannot be, if I say anything about this deal, including the number of homes, that means that I would be publicly soliciting a deal.
Sorry. Don't
No,
worry.
you're fine. Yeah. So I can only talk about that the deal exists and invite you to connect with me and join the presentation that talks about the deal. You will find all about that if you join the webinar tomorrow. And if you can't join it, please reach out to me. I'll send you the package afterwards as well.
Got it. Thank you.
For sure. Anyone else, guys? Anything else? Any questions?
Hey, Charlotte, this is Chris Hadner. I joined late, but I'm curious. You said you don't have any outsourced management. It's all in-house. Mm-hmm. With regards to that, does that mean that there's no managers on site and you guys have a pretty standardized management practice across your portfolio, and you maybe have regional managers coming from your portfolio, or do you hire specific people to be a part of your company and manage multiple properties?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so we do not hire property managers locally to manage our properties. We manage everything in-house, or we do not use regional managers because of this special nature of this niche and this asset class. We do not really trust or would say anybody has the expertise to manage them efficiently. So we manage everything in-house with the assembled team. We have a watch person at the park, and we don't give anybody free rent just to be the AKA, some sort of the so-called property manager. They never really do a good job. It's hard to streamline the process that way. So we manage everything in-house. My partner, Rick, he is in charge of operational stuff. So he is running the property management task side of things. And as far as the localized efforts, we just work with them closely. And if something comes up, let's say a repair and maintenance issue comes up, we have a localized team of plumbers, electricians, and contractors to fix that problem. And our eyes and ears of the park, we have that point of contact at every single park we have, and they keep an eye on the park. So that's how we operate in this kind of small to medium sized mobile home parks, because first of all, you can't really find anyone who is willing or good at managing parks of this nature. A lot of times you need to be a little bit diplomatic for park management. For example, we got a water leak in a park in Montana, and the city mayor actually came out, and my partner actually flew out there to meet with him, be diplomatic about the whole situation, and got the problem solved. So, thinking about having a regional manager going out there, we just have not, don't really trust at this point to have anyone take on that task. But in the future, as we grow more, we may be able to have someone who's qualified, trained enough to take on such a task. But so far, we do everything in-house with localized efforts. Hopefully that answers the question.
Hey, Charlotte, I have one more question. This
Yeah.
James. Since the time frame is 2 to 5 years, and we are not talking about not ruling out tenants and their credit histories, not profiling anybody, how do you deal with delinquencies in rent payments?
How do we deal with rent payments?
Delinquencies, in case there are go delinquent, and I didn't hear the mention of a attorney or a lawyer as part of your team, so I'm assuming that you had come across these kind of situations. And
absolutely, yeah, we have come across with this sort of situation all across, all throughout COVID and still dealing with it. So in mobile home parks, right, because of the niche that we're in, some tenants tend to be not very responsible, let's put it that way, and their delinquencies, as in any real estate investments. So how do we deal with them during COVID and still now? The attitude that we take is kind but firm, right? We want to be professional and kind and be advocates for our tenants, but also at the same time stick to certain standards and be firm. So what that means is, we do have an attorney that works with us. However, he is more on the SEC compliance side and with Johns Creek Capital directly. But as far as the individual parks, we have the local team. See, that's when that comes into effect. We have local attorneys dealing with the local laws. They know the local county judges. They deal with the judges and know how the judges are, and they go to court for us. And we've gone to court before. So, once a tenant is behind in rent payment, first of all, let me rewind, right? You were talking about credit checks and the short hold time. When we buy a park, we do look into the payment history of this park. If this park has a huge bad debt issue and people have not been paying and tenants are just, they have been terrible to work with, then we probably shy away from this park. So we do our due diligence before we even buy it to see what kind of tenants are we getting ourselves into, right? So if everybody has been current, that's great, because you got to have the income coming in. And a mobile home park tenant especially, they act as more of a stakeholder in the park because they own their home. Their home is hooked onto the lot. So it's a lot harder to get them out. So, but if we take over and they're not able to make payments, the first thing we do is we look at the previous records, and if they always been on time and they couldn't pay because they lost their job, which happens, is we try to advocate for them. We try to provide them with opportunities to apply for rental assistance, especially during COVID. This has helped us and the tenants tremendously, because would you rather lose a tenant who's otherwise good, but happen to lose their job because a lot of people lost their jobs during COVID, and we give them opportunities to apply for state, county, city level rental assistance. And the rental assistance actually pays us directly. So we've gotten, for each tenant, let's say they don't pay for 10 months, but they got approved for a rental assistance. So the rental assistance program actually pays 10 months of rents in arrears for that tenants to us. So we made that revenue regardless. So that's the best route. Second route, if they refuse to work with us, they got rejected from all rental assistance, meaning or some people, they're just, they don't want to pay rent and they make too much money to qualify for rental assistance, which just happens. We usually play the hardball. Unfortunately, in this case, we're not going to let anybody stay in the park. No pay, no stay, right? We will have to send out eviction notices, work with the local attorney to evict. And usually an eviction notice is good enough to get people to pay. But if they really do not pay, we have evicted people before because of that. But that would be a not desirable situation, because you know the saying that the only person who wins in an eviction is the eviction attorney, because you have to spend money. So that's the second option. So that's how we work with delinquencies. And no pay, no stay, and no play, no stay. Meaning that if you don't play by our rules, we tell you there are no pit bulls allowed. You have 5 different aggressive big dogs in a park full of kids, then you cannot stay here. So we enforce those rules. So kind but firm, meaning kind is helping them with rental assistance, advocate for them, and we even work with local ministries to help them with rental relief. So that's the kind part. But the firm part is, if you really do not want to work with us, do not want to pay rent, then there's nothing we can do but to evict you. Once we evict someone, we get the title of the home back. That's a process. And then we sell to someone else, get a new, better tenant in there. But before all of that ever happens, we do, we cannot check credits usually before acquisitions, because that would be, there will be certain regulations preventing us from doing that. But we do look at every month payment from the seller. We request a direct deposit, bank statements to verify that income has been coming in from those tenants. So if those tenants have never missed a payment, you can be kind of sort of assured that those will be good tenants. If you're dealing with a park with massive collection issue, then you're in for a bad deal. Then we usually just back out of it or even don't even buy it. So the best course of action is prevention. And then if we do get ourselves into that situation where someone loses their job, then those are 2 options. That's kind of a long answer to the question, but yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Sure. Thank you.
For sure. Any other questions? All right, guys, please reach out to me using my website if you lost my email, but my email is cdunford@johnscreekcapital.com. And please join me for the presentation tomorrow. If you cannot make it for some reason, please reach out to me. We can talk. I will send you the deal. It will be a pretty hot deal. It will go probably pretty quickly. So, well, I've certainly enjoyed the chat with you guys, and please have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Charlotte, for answering all the questions patiently. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye.